This is problem number 5 on the sample test problems for test number 2. In an experiment, a single die is rolled, then a single coin is flipped. The results of both the die roll and the coin flip are recorded. A. List the outcomes in the sample space for this experiment. Sample space is basically just a list of all the possibilities that might happen. So we are rolling a die and then flipping a coin. So for example, on the die you could get a 1, and on the coin you could get heads. Or on the die you could get a 2, and on the coin you could get heads. And then we just kind of list them all. You can list them in any order, but try to come up with some systematic way to list them so you don't miss any. So that's all the possibilities for heads. Now we'll go ahead and change it so that we can get tails. So it could be 1 with tails, 2 with tails, etc. And just an observation, there are 12 possibilities we just listed. And note that number of ways to roll the die is 6. Number of ways to flip a coin is 2. And if you multiply them, we could have predicted we would have gotten 12 outcomes. Part B. Consider the event the die roll is an even number and the coin comes up tails. List the outcomes in this experiment. So all we're doing is listing some of those 12 things up above. We want the die to be even. So for example, it could be 2 or 4 or 6. And we want the coin to come up tails. 2 with tails, 4 with tails, 6 with tails. So just those 3 outcomes under this more specialized event. C, give the probability of rolling an even number and then flipping tails. Let's go ahead and write down our definition for the probability in English, and then we'll fill in the numbers. So the definition of probability is the number of ways that the thing can happen divided by the number of ways anything can happen. So the thing in this case is rolling an even number and then flipping tails. So we'll say it's the number of ways to do this thing that I've circled. That is the number of ways to roll an even number and then flip tails divided by the number of ways to do anything, the total number of ways to roll the die and flip a coin. So again, that's our definition of probability. The probability of something happening is the number of ways the thing can happen divided by the number of ways anything can happen. And I think we translated that into our die and coin problem here. And now we'll fill in the numbers. How many ways are there to roll an even number and then flip tails? Well, that's exactly what we did up above. Rolling an even number and flipping tails, there were 3 possibilities. You saw them right here. So the numerator of our fraction is 3. And then how many ways were there to roll the die and flip a coin in total? That's getting anything, and that's what we did up here. And we saw 12 possibilities there. So 3 out of 12 is the probability. And if you want to reduce that, you can say 1 to 4. Or sorry, 1 out of 4. Part D, give the odds in favor of rolling an even number and then flipping tails. Okay, so this is the same problem, the same information. We're just going to grab from the probability that we got up above. So I'll write down the definition here. The odds in this case are the number of ways to roll an even number and flip tails. And I'll put a big colon for the word 2. It's the number of ways to roll an even and flip tails to the number of ways to not do that. Not roll even and flip tails. And just to be clear, I mean, it's not really part of our course, but you know, the word not and the word and, there are rules with how they go together. Just like there are rules with algebra, there are rules with how logical words like not and interact. So I'm going to put parentheses here Not really needed in our case, but I'm just going to put parentheses to kind of highlight that that word and is part of one idea. So rolling even and flipping tails is one idea, and the word not on the outside is affecting the whole thing in the parentheses. Not really important for us, but I'll just put it there. What is important is for us to be able to write those things in English and then find the numbers. The number of ways to roll even and flip tails. We've seen it a few times. There are 3 ways to do that. And the number of ways to not do that, well, if there's 3 out of 12 ways to get this even and tails, then the other 9 out of 12 must be the opposite. So I'll say it again. There were 3 out of 12 ways. We saw that up here. 3 out of 12 total ways. And if 3 of those 12 total ways involved getting an even number and flipping tails, then the rest of those 12 must be not rolling an even number and flipping tails. So the rest of the 3 out of 12 must be the other 9 out of 12. So 3 to 9 is our odds. And if you had reduced it, you gotten 1 to 3.